All right, everybody, back again. Looks like they took a week off in between episodes, so we're back with Twin Peaks Season 3, Episode 9. And kind of a hard act to follow with Episode 8 and that kind of horrific, surrealist adventure and, that we went on in the visual sense. Actually, my mom, I got my mom back into watching Twin Peaks, and she got the Showtime thing on Amazon, and she thought that the last episode was like the end of the season or the end of the series. So she was wanting me to have to explain it to her. But no, I let her know that no, this is we're not near the end yet. I believe 18 episodes are listed as being what's going to happen this season. That may be the final run at just this one season. Not sure, but yeah, with this one we've hit the halfway mark, and we've got some new revelations and quite a bit going on. So I think it did overall did a very good job of following in the footsteps of the previous episode. We're definitely getting more to the meat and the core of the story. Time is of the essence, and some pretty big reveals, some pretty interesting expansions upon the lore and the supernatural aspects that are taking place within the world of Twin Peaks. So let's get started. Resurrected doppelganger Dale looks like could be worse for wear. Finds a red handkerchief on a fence post of some sort, so it must be a marker to let him know that his cronies are in the neighborhood. Colonel Davis calls Gordon. Of course, Gordon's hearing leads to a little bit of confusion. I'm not sure what he thought he said. Davis basically tells him that they need to go and meet up with Lieutenant Knox back in Buckhorn. Tim Roth plays a pretty decent redneck. He's a pretty good character actor. I heard a lot of people in, the rumor was a lot of people in Hollywood were really begging for a chance to have a bit piece or a little side role in the series when it was announced that the show was coming back. So definitely, I think David Lynch as a director and an artist has garnered quite a bit of respect, even though he's always kind of been on the fringes of the Hollywood set. So. I'm really curious about, let's see, it's Hutch and his, I don't know if it's his wife or his sister or something, Chantel, played by. I'm not sure how much they know about the doppelganger from the supernatural element, or if they just kind of see him as some kind of crime lord of some kind. But yeah. So Jennifer Jason Leigh and Tim Roth playing a couple of his sidekicks. Interesting, both established actors. So it is a Blue Rose case indeed, Diane. And Major Briggs is the topic of that. Diane tries to text a number, but it is blocked on her phone, or tries to dial a number, so curious who she was trying to contact. And Gordon gets the bad news from Warden Murphy that Cooper flew the coop. And back on the farm, we see the farmers are room temperature outside, killed off. Gives Doppelganger quite a girly, old-fashioned cell phone to use with the old school texting functions where he had to sort through a number and hit it the same number a bunch of times just to get the letter you wanted. Not too much fun. Doppelganger gives his lackeys, or his lackey, I should say, in Vegas an ultimatum. I'm assuming it has to do with the assassination of Dougie Cooper that our friend Ike the Spike didn't complete successfully. And given Warden Murphy will probably give up the ghost on Doppelganger and the situation that resulted in him being let go, assuming the FBI cracks down on him, then he's definitely got to be taken out of the equation. Perhaps these these two lackeys will be sent. Well, it sounds like they're going to Vegas too after the warden's dealt with, so maybe they will be sending him after Dougie for another chance to take him out. Because I'm pretty sure that Doppelganger is aware of the fact that Goodale is out in the world again, since he saw the image of the I guess you could call it the Dougie construct or whatever, that, and showing up in front of the drapes or the curtains of the Black Lodge. So, and him getting so, violently ill from it. So I think he knows something's up. So apparently Dougie's been employed for 12 years at the insurance company. He had a car accident prior to his employment, so that was kind of what the explanation of him being a little slow, or acting in that way. So I guess that gives a reason why Cooper acting kind of somewhat catatonic for a while, slowly regaining his memories, or at least his awareness of the world, was transitioned into the character well. It wasn't like Dougie all of a sudden did a 180 and didn't talk and just kind of wandered about. So I'm glad that they put that in there. It makes it a little more believable. And yeah, remember that. Let's see. We've got nothing on Dougie prior to 1997 as far as social security numbers go. Arrest records, or anything like that. And remember that, according to Mike, the denizen in the Black Lodge, Dougie was manufactured for a purpose that has now been completed. So this may have this may have been a creation through some means that was implemented in 1997, perhaps. It'd be interesting to see if they explain the whole origin of the Dougie kind of stand-in that Cooper took his place after he was Dougie was taken to the lodge and kind of I don't know, imploded into some little bead of metal or something. So I kind of view him as this kind of a supernatural construct, and I'm assuming that the Evil Dale, or Doppelganger Dale, as you might want to call him, was the architect of creating this construct. But we don't have enough to go on, so that's just me throwing out my 2 cents. That he was manufactured through some kind of wizardry. That the powers of the Black Lodge, because remember, Wyndham Earle really built up a lot of the, built up the lodge as being a place that had a power that you could harness, and he said, order the world to your liking. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that Doppelganger Dale, with Bob, and Bob's essence within him, has the ability to perhaps demonstrate some feats of the, power of some sort. And he certainly was able to survive with the help of his friends there, or if they were really helping him, or if they were just trying to recover Bob's essence, it's hard to say. Anyway, yeah, that's the Dougie construct thing is definitely something I would like them to expand upon, and to give us a solid answer on how that happened. But they might not. So the cops beat around the bush for a while, and they finally end up getting some prints off a coffee cup or coffee mug to get some DNA, perhaps, and some more information, find out who Dougie is exactly. So it looks like Dougie Cooper might be in a little bit of trouble with them. But on the other hand, Ike the Spike gets arrested, and he's going away for a while since his entire palm was ripped off his hand. That must have hurt quite a bit. So at least his opportunities looks like he was going to split town anyway, so it looks like they won't be having to worry too much about him coming after Cooper. though that there may be somebody in line to take his place, knowing who the opposition is. So to end that scene, Dougie starts staring at the American flag, and America the Beautiful starts to play. A woman walks by, and in a skirt and red high heels, and kind of starts looking at her. And then his eyes kind of become fixated on the electrical outlet on the wall. I was almost assuming that they were going to do another kind of thing where they had Mike, superimposed over the carpet and some more messages, but no, he just fixates on the electrical outlet. And then we're over in Twin Peaks, and Andy and Lucy are arguing over chair colors, typical domestic, type of stuff between the married couple. And then next scene, took me a while to figure out who the heck it was, but it's old Johnny Horn, the guy that he liked to wear the Indian headdress and shoot little suction cup arrows at at these cutouts of buffalo. And apparently, he likes he's wearing a tracksuit like a Jersey mobster, and sprinting around the house like he's training for the 100-meter dash, and ends up knocking himself out cold. Hey, they remember Johnny Horn? Oh yeah, now he runs around the house and runs into stuff, and yeah, and wears a tracksuit now. So at least he's still alive. And Sylvia Horn gets her. I don't even know if they used the same actress. They probably didn't. So yeah, that was just kind of out of the blue. No wonder Ben's hanging out with his assistant all the time. So now we start getting more towards the nitty gritty and the main focus of the Twin Peaks storyline, at least in Twin Peaks proper. And that's when Bobby, Frank, and Hawk visit Mrs. Briggs. And of course, the Major knew that this meeting was going to happen, 25 years in the future. He gave all the, necessary information to his wife, that his son, one of, Sheriff Truman, not knowing which one specifically, and Hawk would visit. So she moves some little mechanism on the chair, and this upper part of the chair moves, and this small metal pipe looking type thing is removed from it. And Mrs. Briggs, has a kind of a sweet moment with her son where she's telling him that his father never lost faith in him, and which is true, because if Bobby had hadn't kind of mended his ways and kind of gotten on the straight and narrow, he wouldn't have been there to be part of this meeting that just took place, since he was a part of it. And if he something happened to him and he hadn't thrown his life away, then this wouldn't have been possible. So his father had to have faith that his prediction would come true. So we are back in South Dakota, and Lieutenant Knox meets up with Gordon and company. And Diane makes a very good point about smoking in a morgue. It's not like the corpses are going to die of lung cancer. And then Diane checks her cell phone, and it looks like she is the one that Doppelganger Dale texted. Something about the conversation around the dinner table is lively. And she sees that, and I'm assuming she knows who it's from, but he texted it and then had the phone destroyed. Which begs the question, is Diane up to no good? Is something that, like the last time they saw each other, that came up in the conversation with her and Doppelganger when they were interview, where she was talking to him in prison, and she was kind of distraught about who she saw in there, but she probably had not necessarily a romantic relationship with Special Agent Cooper, but they were definitely close. She might have been a confidant of his, and so she may still have some kind of conflicting emotions. So I don't know. He sends her that text. I'm wondering if she may be herself not completely on the side of, Gordon and company, or she may be planning some kind of sabotage. Interesting that he would text her, and that she wouldn't make it known to the rest. So if we go from there to the basically the preliminary reports and autopsy reports and all that, and the discussion of the finding of the body. So basically, Principal Hastings was having an affair with a Ruth Davenport, who was a librarian, and that is who Ruth's head is the one that was found decapitated, placed above a male body, which is indeed Major Briggs, though the age is all wrong, as we know. And afterwards, Hastings' secretary died in a car explosion. And Albert says, makes a comment. So it's like, what is this? Some kind of soap opera. I was hoping that Albert would have said, welcome to Amateur Hour. If they had looked over that their write up and done that, that'd have been a kind of a cool nod back to his early comments about Twin Peaks' sheriff's department and their backwards facilities. It was always his banter with Sheriff Truman was always great, especially when they became pals. And this is where we start getting, more information on Major Briggs's activity and get some, some new, kind of viewpoints and descriptions of the alternate dimensions that we know that the lodges are a part of. But this one is given a completely different name. So basically, on the side, with outside of their professional lives, William Hastings and Ruth Davenport were researching alternate dimensions and keeping a blog dedicated to this topic. So they were really into this, the paranormal search for this specific dimension. And the last post on Hastings' blog is, "Today we finally entered what we call the zone, and we met the Major." So apparently the official story about Garland Briggs is that he died in a fire in a government facility outside of Twin Peaks 25 years ago. So not long after he last saw Dale Cooper, he passed the message on to his wife, and then apparently died in a fire, which could have easily been him faking his death and him escaping to this place called the Zone, which may or may not be another name for the White Lodge. I'm kind of hesitant to equate the two, given what Hastings says later in the interview. But Gordon and Albert both are in agreement that, Briggs's body shows up all of a sudden. Dale Cooper all of a sudden shows up in Buckhorn of all places. It's probably not a coincidence. And for some reason, we again see that wedding band or engagement ring or something from Janie to Dougie was in Briggs's stomach, which perhaps Briggs knew about the Dougie construct, or I don't know. We have to find out how exactly that came to be. That's a mystery. And here we have Jerry Horn is still out in the woods tripping balls, and his foot is talking to him, or at least he thinks so. So Jerry's probably should lay off the hallucinogenics, I should say. They're not doing much for his mental stability. Deputy Douchebag is eating his TV dinners, gets kicked out by the sheriff. Bobby recognizes the piece of metal and knows how to open it because his dad brought him one night and they showed him how to open it. They open it, and we get some little pieces of paper with coordinates, a time, and a date. Also, the symbol may have escaped you. Notice above, if you're looking at the image where you got the two triangles and the sun and whatnot, on the right triangle, you see that that black design, almost like a sphere with little arms coming off on either side. Remember, at the hotel, the doppelganger Dale had a playing card that had that exact same thing on it, and he showed it to Daria before he killed her. He said that was what he's after. He'd asked her if she'd ever seen this or knew what this was. So that symbol shows up on that piece of paper. So that's definitely something big. And then there's something about putting some soil from the area being Jackrabbit's palace, in your pocket, which is kind of a bit cryptic. But of course, Bobby knows where this place is. It was a place where he and his father went when Bobby was a child. It was kind of their make-believe place. They came up with stories and whatnot, because Major Briggs was kind of a unique individual, like a Renaissance man, kind of in tune with the paranormal. So I'm sure Bobby had an interesting upbringing. And Bobby gave it the name Jackrabbit's Palace. And also, Briggs left a clue that there is more than one Cooper. And Hawk knows probably what this means immediately, because he's aware of the lodges and the notion of the shadow self. And Diane, still wondering what she's up to. So here we get to a pretty cool interview with Principal Hastings. I believe the actor's name is Matt Lillard. He was in the Scream series, Wes Craven's horror movie series. He was in that. He was in quite a few kind of movies in the 90s. And it's quite an illuminating conversation. So it's the search for the zone. And Hastings has been researching this topic for quite a while, finally made a breakthrough where he and Ruth entered an alternate dimension that they call the zone, in which they made physical contact with Major Briggs at a specific place and time, which is, as we know, the doorways to the lodges are based on time and specific place and specific time. The Major said he was hibernating there, so whatever, that was probably the reason why his body didn't age. Perhaps he was waiting for future events to unfold before returning to the third dimension. The Major wanted to go to a different place, according to Hastings, so he needed numbers or coordinates. And these are probably the numbers that Doppelganger Dale wanted from Ray Monroe, who had memorized them but wanted to hold him up for $500,000, and then shot Doppelganger Dale because he was actually working for the other side. And Ray may have known of the Major as well. It's hard to say. So Hastings and Ruth Davenport found these coordinates that the Major required in a military database that the Major told them about. Ruth wrote the coordinates on her hand, but of course at the crime scene the only thing there was her head, so who knows where the rest of the body went. Hastings mentioned something about these others came in and grabbed him and held him down, so I'm not sure if he means Doppelganger Dale's lackeys, or perhaps even those Black Lodge woodsmen that came through and came after him. Hastings identifies the Major from a set of photos, right away. So they gave the Major the numbers or coordinates, and then Major Briggs started to float up. He said some words, said Cooper, and then his head disappeared. That brings us back to the scene where Cooper is on top of that metal kind of structure out in space with the gal that couldn't talk, that when he went inside that building that her eyes were missing, and she went up there and flipped the electric switch and then it shot her off into space. We saw the disembodied head of Major Briggs floating through space, and the Major said Blue Rose. And this was all before Cooper went through that kind of giant electrical outlet and manifested into the real world. So perhaps this that vast violet ocean and the tower on that rocky pinnacle is the zone that Hastings is speaking of, and not necessarily the White Lodge. I'm assuming that is possibly where he went, or where the Major was. It's hard to say. It's still kind of vague. And apparently Ruth died right after that encounter, and Hastings said that no, the Major didn't kill her. He said there were so many people there, which doesn't really tell us much. So many people there, of what nature. And of course, Albert's a bit of a skeptic. I would say, regardless of what he's seen, he's always kind of got that dry, kind of sarcastic, cynical humor about him. So Ben Horn describes that humming as being similar to a monastery bell, kind of a frequency. And remember, we also, when Bobby threw that piece of metal down and picked it back up, it started ringing at a certain frequency before there was almost like a switch like that went off, and then he threw it down again and it opened up. So anything of electrical frequency of some sort always seems to have supernatural implications in the world of Twin Peaks. So something there with Ben and his assistant there. I don't think they're just wasting time. I think there's some significance back at the Great Northern, which I would like to let you know that my dad had his one of his high school, maybe more than one of his high school reunions at that exact hotel or the place of the Great Northern. So he's actually been there and walked through all of that whole place and stuff. So I'm gonna check it out one of these days and maybe snap some photos, put them up online for everybody to take a peek at, because I don't live all that far away. And to end the episode, there's a couple of skanky girls talking at the Roadhouse. One of them has a very itchy armpit. I don't know what the significance of that is. And is the brunette? Is she in? Was she on Game of Thrones just recently, or in the earlier episodes? I'm trying to remember if she's the one that Tyrion Lannister hooks up with or not. But anyway, the video's getting a little long, but hopefully my analysis made it worth listening to, and we'll be back with episode 10, and we'll see what else we can glean. But there's definitely a lot to chew on, and if you guys have any of your own theories of what has been represented in this episode, and if you think that the Zone and the White Lodge are the same thing, I'm starting to wonder that they may not be, because Major Briggs, it seemed like he was hiding out in this place, and that he wanted to actually go to another place. Maybe he wanted to go to the White Lodge from there. I don't know. Hopefully we'll get some more of these answers as time goes on. I'll talk to you all when episode 10 is done and I can get a chance to review it. So take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.